What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Supreme Decisions Legal Minute podcast, and I am your host, Supreme Decisions. And today, I'm going to do a couple of things a little different because we're going to do a new era. We're walking into a new era of Supreme Decisions and how we're going to be pretty much confronting everything and dealing with everything. So, we got a couple of bills to pay. So we're going to start out with that burger spot number 3, made fresh to order and the best burgers in Atlanta. That burger spot number 3, 7420A South Lake Parkway in Jonesboro, Georgia, 30236. Your stomach will thank you. Urban Gyros, 1550 North Zaragoza Drive, Suite 202, El Paso, Texas, 79936. Urban Gyros, Mediterranean street food. We have the gyros, we have the bowls, we have the loaded fries. El Paso's new favorite, big ass taco. Hashtag celebrate flavor. Can't talk today. Made fresh daily and made to order. Stop in to Urban Gyros, Mediterranean street food. And Jacob's Well, Unity Church of Christ, has a Sunshine Community Outreach Dinner every third Sunday at 2 p.m. at 241 Bradford Drive in Charlotte, North Carolina, and that's 28208. Again, this is one of those great outreach programs, Jacob's Well, Unity Church of Christ, Sunshine Community Outreach Dinner, every third Sunday at 2 p.m. So stop in. Go enjoy your community socializing and gathering and get you something to eat. So, now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of everything. Last podcast, I spoke about Dante's Inferno. And basically, I spoke about how we're looking at now a lot of our police departments are pretty much under fire, simply because we have a turn. We're at the turn. And that turn is actually being looked at as something that's positive for citizens and negative for police officers and the policing organization. Now, here's the greatest thing that can come from this. It's offering us an opportunity to see that we have an opportunity within ourselves to actually stand up and fight back and correct the one thing that is pretty much wrong. The wrong is officers are not being trained properly. I'm not sure if many of you remember this, but last week I spoke about a conversation I had with an Atlanta police officer who had participated in the Blue Flu. Well, I'm pretty sure you guys remember that because it was a couple of days after the 57 Buffalo police officers decided they were not going to go to work or resigned, only to return to work 2 days later to do the exact same thing. And then the Atlanta police officers, there was a young man killed at Wendy's, and there was another set of college students that were pretty much assaulted by Fulton County Police Department officers, and they were suspended. And so you had a lot of officers that weren't going to work and all that good stuff. And in the midst of doing that, my question to that officer who had participated in that was simply, why? If you know certain aspects or you agree with certain aspects of our conversation, why? Why do that? Why are you upset? And his thing was, because we're being punished for what we're trained to do. When we're looking at things, and we looked at as some people are now calling it the Chauvin effect, the problem is this effect started in 2017. I had spoke about several people that I had helped sue police officers since 2017. There are several people that I am helping currently sue police officers in 2021. The context is understanding there is literally no better time. because now we're forcing a correction, because everybody understands the lip service of defund the police, defund the police, defund the police. And we understand that marching alone does nothing. Now, you're probably going to hear that ding every now and then, because not only is my phone going off, but so is my alarm. Well, I hope you guys are actually enjoying the clarity of my voice today, because we're going to actually give a quick shout out, because I forgot to do this earlier, to Christian. He decided on yesterday to upgrade our sound system by purchasing a Yeti Nano. So I appreciate you, Christian. Thank you guys for, helping us keep going, keep growing. And that's pretty much what the gist of this whole thing is. It's helping one another get to a different level and progress. Progress to the point to where we're able to do something beyond what we're doing today. It's not that the sound system was poor, but there's always room for an improvement. And again, thank you guys. Let's all think of it. Let's keep going. Let's keep growing. But now, we looked at Dante Wright. Dante was shot and killed accidentally, for the most part, by Kim Potter. Well, Kim Potter was not fired. Kim Potter actually resigned. Chief Tim Gannon, he also resigned at the same time Kim did. Why? Because for the most part, most people don't understand the word negligence. I often speak of that and we go through the thing of loss of qualified immunity, because a lot of people are scared of that, because they heard, qualified immunity. But you forget, Malloy v. Hogan in 1964 gave you the context of when qualified immunity is lost. It is due through willful acts or acts of negligence or ignorance. When you fire off a gun, yelling out it's a taser on video, that's negligent. When you say, oh shit, I shot him, I didn't tase him, that's negligence. That's the acknowledgement of negligence. So whenever you look at Kim actually being charged with second-degree manslaughter, I'm going to read off the actual, I guess you would call that the statute in Minnesota. It's statute 609.205, manslaughter in the second degree. A person who causes the death of another by any of the following means is guilty of manslaughter in the second degree and may be sentenced to imprisonment for not more than 10 years or to payment of fine of not more than $20,000 or both. Now, I thought that was interesting because, you're saying someone's life, even if it's accidental, is only worth $20,000. All right. By the person's culpable negligence, whereby the person creates an unreasonable risk and consciously takes chances of causing death or great bodily harm to another. Now, you can look at that because, again, the person is culpable negligence, whereby the person creates an unreasonable risk. Well, the way she created an unreasonable risk was, instead of grabbing her taser, she did grab her firearm. But again, I point that to training. When we talked about the police reform bill, one thing I talked about that was notably absent was training or retraining or extended requirements other than counseling for the most part. But the problem is, when we're looking at this, most of our police apologists are looking for us to pretty much make an excuse that a police officer is always correct in their decision making, when in fact we know that they're not. The Department of Justice actually pulled out a finding, which I'm going to talk about later, in which most police officers, I actually said they're wrong 2 out of 3 times. That number is actually higher. Why? Because they're not dealing with law. They're dealing with statutes, codes, and ordinances that deal directly with revenue generation. Now, all statutes, codes, and ordinances, are they law? No. because there's a way or a means for it to actually be law. They use those words as a means of programming. So in the midst of doing that, it's the understanding the context of the words between statute and actual law. Because jaywalking is a statute. Getting hit by someone while jaywalking is against the law. While one is separated by the other, they mean two different things and they have two different variances of degrees. But when we're talking about, again, this manslaughter statute, 609.25, it goes into one where I think she mostly falls under. And that's section 2. By shooting another with a firearm or other dangerous weapon as a result of negligently believing the other to be a deer or animal. Here's why I say it's more closely to 2. You look at a lot of times police officers are going out and they're training. They're relying mostly on their training. Most people don't know that police officers are trained that, I don't know if that guy has a gun. I don't know if that guy is trying to hurt me. I don't know. They're trained with, I don't know. So instead of being responsive, they're being reactive. I have a video clip which is the most amazing clip that I've ever seen in my life, because it's not me saying something. It's an actual police officer charging someone with the very thing I said that police officers do, but they're excused for doing that exact same thing. This young man is accused of pointing a gun at a young lady. The police pull out a gun and a cell phone. The police officer says, while if you hold it a certain way, it can look like a gun, but there is a huge difference. And very rarely can you mistake a cell phone for a gun. Police officer says that. I thought that was hilarious. Why? Because even in the news, there was a young man that his name was Evan Solano. Evan Solano, since 2017, has 11 excessive force complaints against him. Now, keep in mind, the police apologists want us to believe that not every officer is a bad officer. But one of the things I love, because I like to watch comedians, because they're generally ones that are telling the truth. Cat Williams spoke about an instance with Whitney Houston. He said, if somebody's saying the same thing about you over and over and over and over and over again, at some point, you doing it. Evan Solano, he's only been a police officer for 6 years. The last 3, he has 11 complaints, excessive force complaints. He had 5 in 2019. That is 3 times the national average, just for 2019. Now, the great part about it, the reason why I'm going into this is because I'm going to go into the reason why I look at how we are the ones that have to take some type of onus and responsibility about this foolishness. But here's the great part about it. I'm getting ready to go into it. Evan Solano shot a young man by the name of Alvarez in the back 6 times while he was running away. Evan Solano said Alvarez had fired at officers while he was chasing him. Well, Evan Solano was still on the force, working, getting paid, until they decided to release his body camera. Now, here's where it got funny to me. On the video, the body camera video from Evan Solano, he's chasing Alvarez. Alvarez turns the corner. Alvarez then, he yells, "Stop" for Alvarez. Alvarez puts his hands up in the air. He gets shot in the back 6 times. Bow, 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 bow. As Alvarez goes to the ground, Solano yells, "Roll over." The funniest thing in the world. At no time on the video do you see a gun being thrown, do you see a gun being dropped. Solano said that there was a .40 caliber pistol found near Alvarado. Not on him, but near him. But the other thing that most people didn't pay attention to, because they're looking at the things to excuse Solano for his behavior, but it was the fact that, yes, Alvarez did have something in his hand. It was a big-ass phone, because as he turned, most of us know when we turn our hands towards our face, our phone lights up. So as Alvarez rolled over with the phone in his hand, his phone lit up. I thought that was amazing. I thought that was absolutely amazing, because another police officer said you can't mistake a phone for a gun, but then where did the gun come from? Because we didn't see it in the video. Even though Solano said he picked it up near him, we didn't see Solano pick up anything near Alvarez after shooting him in the back. There was another young man who was walking, who, while speaking to 911, he did say something ignorant, such as, "I'm going to kill my brother." Now, the crazier part is they look for an excuse for the officer. The officer gets on the scene, and he says something that I thought was mind-blowing afterwards. Young man who had called the police, who's on the phone with 911, sees the cops coming. He's walking towards the police officers. Police officer jumps out the car, yells, "Put down the gun, put down the gun, put down the gun." Then he yells, he has a gun to his head. Young man was on the phone with 911. Yeah, I think I said that. He was on the phone with 911, which the police officer mistook as a gun. Remember, I just told you the other police officer said you can't mistake a phone for a gun? But I just gave you 2 stories where police officers are unloading weapons on people with phones in their hand, calling it a gun, and expecting us to be okay with the results of said action. When a police officer tells me, "Well, every officer's not a bad officer," I have just a couple things to say. Every person you encounter is not out to hurt you. Every person that you encounter is not a criminal. Every person that you encounter does not have to be dealt with by you. But then again, like I said, as the people, we have to take onus on that. Because the one thing I've always relied on was the simple fact that I can't know something. Like, I can't read Jordan v. Prince, seeing that the police don't hire someone with the IQ higher than 104 and then expect a police officer to be intelligent, to be able to rationally think. I can't think that. I can't look at that and then be surprised when something stupid happens. But then I also cannot invite that into my situation. So if I'm not calling them, because I'm going to be honest, I have been one of those people that at one point didn't know that information. I've called police officers. I've expected better and didn't receive it. And the whole context of that is, when I look back on it, I now understand why I didn't receive better. My expectations were out of line. Then when I sat down and I started speaking with actual police officers, I talked about their actual training. I looked into their actual training. I looked at how they were actually trained. I then had to reevaluate me, because I can't call someone that I don't think is intelligent to handle a situation. So when you're calling people or calling police to deal with a mental patient, someone that's going through a mental episode, when they're saying, oh, well, you need to have social workers, which I don't think is a great idea to begin with, go on these police calls, my question is, what are you expecting to happen when you have people that aren't trained properly to deal with people that aren't mentally ill? What are you expecting to happen when you have people that aren't trained to deal with people that are not criminals? What do you expect to happen when you call people that aren't trained to deal with people that aren't trying to hurt them? What do you call them? Because even a lot of times I have to ask police officers, like, if you're that angry or that wound up, that tight, that scared, that fearful of every encounter, why are you going to work? That's the question I have. Why go to work? Why do a job that places you in such a stressful situation to where you look at 43% of police officers beat their spouse or do something else reckless? Now, again, this is not me. This is the Department of Justice. You can actually go to their website and look this up. You cannot then expect better. But those stupid saying, if you knew better, you do better. When you're given the information, the question is, are you willing to fight the programming to do something different? Are you willing to fight the programming to do something better? Because even when someone tells me, well, you should understand what a police officer has to go through, has nothing to do with your training. And guess what? I wouldn't do it. Because here's the thing. I actually did a thing one day because we were talking. One of my favorite verses as I was growing up in the Bible was, the greatest among you shall be a servant to all. So when I look at a public servant, when I look at the actions of these public servants, they're not serving. They're not wanting to serve. They're not wanting to be among the greatest out there. When you're not trying to be great, when you're not trying to perform as a great person, where does that leave me? Why is it that I now must trust you when you're not even trying to be great? When you're saying, oh, I work for this, I heard this jackass tell me when I was down in Dallas. It wasn't everybody that was with him. It was one officer out of 4. One officer said, I work for the city of Dallas. And I said, show me that in your oath of office. I said, because your oath of office states you are a defender of the people. It doesn't say the people of Dallas. It doesn't even say the Department of Dallas. And I told him, I said, you need to burn your uniform because you're not worthy to wear it. So when someone tells me that I should understand, my question is, why am I understanding something that's done incorrectly? Why am I forgiving something that can be better? Why am I excusing something that should be better? Now, last week, I talked about our current judicial system because it deals with we the people. The next rung is the police. And after that is the prosecutor. And supposedly on our side is the defender. And lastly, the mediator, the judge. And the thing that I actually found profound is something that I heard from a young man, Tommy Sotomayor. He said, we the people don't fight back, and the police don't know law. The prosecutor doesn't require evidence. The defense doesn't vigorously defend. And the judges don't follow settled standard. Where are we at? Because it's the reason we, the people, are the top rung. It's because everyone below that serves, or they are appointed by the people. I'm going to say that one more time. Everyone below that, the police, the prosecutor, defense, and the judges, they are either serving or are appointed by the people. The most powerful people. What do you call that? The most powerful cog in the ring. If the people aren't requiring accountability, if we're excusing bad behavior, if we're not saying they're culpable for the actions that they are definitely going through, what is it we are actually looking for? What is it that we are actively cultivating? Now, here's the thing. Because one day, I was probably about 12, 13 years old. And my father was having a conversation with, I believe it was one of my uncles. And he had just got out of jail. And my uncle was like, you know what? It is what it is because I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He said, I didn't do anything, but the person I was with did something. We just looked at a man that got out of prison for 80, I believe he was in there for 60 years, 63 years. And he didn't do anything, but he was with the people that did something. Had another one of my uncles that served 15 years for giving a young man a ride. My father's response to my uncle was, Lady Liberty is holding the scale of justice, but is no longer part of our system. Because while the bandana's over her eyes, she's peeking. Then I had no clue what the hell he was talking about. And then as I grew up, I looked, well, Lady Justice is peaking because of black people. They're overdoing with black people. And then now I'm older. I can see the matrix a little bit. I can walk through the matrix a little bit. And then now I understand systematic programming. That's why I constantly use the words programming, because words have power. Now, when I understand the systematic programming of what's going on, I'm then able to construe what is actually being shown and said versus what's actually being done. I'm able to tell you reality shows are not part of reality because they're sketched. There's somebody actually writing that foolishness. There's very little ad-libs in reality TV. So when I'm looking at the programming, I'm understanding there's a purpose behind it. They're trying to show me something. What are you trying to show me? I learned as I got older, it's not the war on the colored. It's not the war on the brown, the black, the blue, the tan, the foreigners. It's the war on the poor. While some folks get mixed up in that, the war is actually on the poor because every war has casualties. You have a Ving Rhames being thrown to the pavement outside of his own house. Why? Because the neighbors forgot he had lived there for 10 years and now he's not just some big black dude. Or Chris Carter, his house being robbed, he has to wait for the police with every light on outside of his house because he doesn't want to be jumped on because, as Dave Chappelle said, house a little too nice for me to be living there. Or being Tyler Perry that films multiple shows in DeKalb County and being thrown to the pavement by a DeKalb County police officer. Oh, yes, that happened. Or being a running back or a defensive lineman in Vegas during a shooting, being tackled after being told they're looking for a white shooter, and being tackled by an officer in Vegas and being told, I'll blow your fucking brains out. I'm supposed to excuse that because that's the programming they're giving me. The police officer has the right, just like this jackass sent to me a message a couple of days ago. It's sad that you believe that police have procedures. My response was, it's sad that you don't. It's sad the fact that what people will allow to keep going on and will excuse. I used to ask my grandmother all the time because we used to have a lot of stupid-ass arguments, which technically wasn't arguments because she said what she said, and then I either agreed or I mumbled under my breath, so I guess you call it what it is. But how many times can you offer the devil a place in your home and don't think he's going to take up residency? You can't keep inviting chaos into your house and expecting chaos not to live there. You can't keep inviting stupid things around you and expecting a different response when those stupid things happen. Because most of the time I look at this and I look at people around me and I look at those that are prospering and I look at those that are just flailing in the wind. Those that are flailing in the wind, I'm probably even saying that wrong, but correct me in the comments, whatever. But those that are just pretty much going by the wayside, 90% of what goes on in their life is self-inflicted. Because I've even had that happen on a different level in my life. Because I offer advice to someone that, I'm gonna give you a greater thing. Everybody wants to be a boss until it's time to do boss shit. Everyone calls themselves kings and queens until it's time to do king or queen shit, because most people don't understand the context of those words. They don't understand duties of those titles. Now, we're in America where titles just run rampant and everybody accepts them, everybody expects them. But the title of king requires that you have to get your hands dirty, not for yourself, but for the kingdom. Most people don't want to be responsible anymore. They're looking for ways to shift the responsibility. Most people don't want to get their hands dirty when it comes time to do something that they don't seem to be things that are, let's call it hard. One of my favorite things whenever I worked at ADT was firing people. People do not, and I still have people, you didn't like fire. I love firing people. Here's the reason why. Because you have to understand, my job depended on the performance of those that are below me. Those that below me, their job depended on them performing. If they are unable to perform the duties at a high level or at an acceptable level, guess what happens? They now become stuck in a place where they can't perform high and they're unhappy. They're struggling. When you fire them, not only do you allow yourself to continue growing and prospering, but you allow them to go find out what makes them happy. And I always looked at it because the difference is that sentence made a couple of y'all chill. Just made you cringe up because it sent chills down your spine. Like, oh my God, he would just do that. But then when I give you the context of it, it lets you understand what my mindset is. Because my livelihood is built for my children. My livelihood is built for that company I'm with, because that is my representation there. Because once I leave, I have to go somewhere else. Once I stop performing, I have to be able to go to somewhere else and give them some type of performance review. They have to be able to see something in me to even offer me an opportunity. But if I'm going there and I'm smug, I'm unhappy, I'm slouching, it becomes a health issue. It becomes a life issue. It makes those around me more tense. It even has destroyed marriages, being somewhere that you don't want to be. And I just talked about how the police officers, they're being placed, they're given stress, they're trained under stress, and then they're taking that, going into all these encounters daily, and then they're taking that home without the release. And the release is through some form of physicality. Now, what I'm talking about, it may seem like rambling, but it's the rationalizing, I guess we can call it that, of understanding police, just like the police apologists are asking me to do. Because whenever I tell you, I am putting people in a place to actually fight back, to go somewhere else, to do something, to actually have a mindset of protecting oneself. But I'm not doing it through our learned microwave society. Nothing I'm doing is quick, other than these podcasts, which a lot of y'all just, well, we need you to do it longer. So what? You need to start supporting me to do it longer. Everybody that says do it longer, I expect you to be hitting that Cash App. But anyway, but I understand why. Because some people's meals are a little bigger than others, but I'm not putting it in the microwave. We got good home cooking here. That's what I'm doing, because I'm making it easy for you to digest, and it's also something that you can carry with you once you get up from the table. I'm giving you that grit that'll stick to your ribs. Yeah, I'm country boy, so those are country sayings. If you don't know them, now you know. But anyway, many of us, I spoke about the ideals of changing. I talked about the 5% that fight back. And I even talked about what happens, or my solution, or recommendation. And it was done through a hostile takeover, where you have to actually gut it out to rebuild it. Now, can we sustain that? Not for any significant amount of time, but something has to be done. But it also can be done with something as simple as, instead of 5% of people fighting back, now we have 10% of people fighting back. We don't have people just marching. We don't have people just tearing up other folks' stuff. We don't have people just going out here shooting. We actually have people that are fighting back in the courtroom. I always tell people, go to their house. Because you look at NFL champions, NBA champions, NHL champions, baseball, MBL, all the alphabet champions. One of their great calling cards is the fact that many of them have a high road winning percentage. It doesn't matter where they're at, they still execute and they win. That's where I'm trying to get everybody to. That's where I'm offering you an opportunity to get to. The masterclass isn't just for those that are in trouble. It's for those that are around trouble, that are swimming through trouble, that have gone through trouble, to make sure that trouble doesn't show up again. These are the things that I'm offering you. And I'm going to give you another one, because it was funny to me, because we were talking, and I guess for somebody that don't like hearing their voice, I do a lot of damn talking. Anyway, when we give you the restructuring of what happens, the one example that most people, or the easiest, are the Clippers. Lob City, 3 years ago. Steve Ballmer comes in, completely guts the team. Coach, players, nobody from 3 years ago, from when Ballmer first purchased the team, still there. He did a hostile takeover. Most people didn't even recognize it. That's what we're going to have to do inside, first, our policing system. Why? Because they're the first rung after the people. But in doing so, you have to understand, again, why that is. Because in order for our system to get stronger, even us as a people, or even to change, there must be some resistance. Because a lot of people, what they're doing is the equivalent of going to the gym and taking selfies and leaving. And saying, hey, I went to the gym today. Well, how much you bench? Oh, I didn't bench anything. I just went to the gym. Well, how do you expect anything to change? How you expect to do something without resistance? Because even our mind changes. Even our mind gets stronger as we use it. The more resistance we apply to any muscle in our body, the stronger it gets. You would think that it would be the opposite. It would tear it down. It would do something. No, it makes it stronger. That's what we have to do. We have to understand it is not our darkness that most frightens us. It is our light. The more light we're able to shine on ourselves, the stronger we get. The more enlightened we become, the greater we can move forward. And when we're talking about this on a context level, I named this podcast the Blueline Accountability for the police apologists. That was the rest of it, but it is what it is. But the Blueline Accountability is the simple line of us, we the people, drawing that line. We, the people, making it a point to correct the behavior of children. Because, see, now that ties it into some other stuff I've been saying. I don't deal with anybody else's children. But again, I'm going to give you, I believe it was maybe 10 or 11 examples, and then we're going to close out because I want you to think about something. Because they're telling us the police are the good guys, and the things we're doing are wrong. They actually labeled one of my videos, I believe it was video 82 out of 100, as a sovereign citizen video. I did an update the other day. Everything that I said in that video that officer did wrong, and I believe his name was Charles Hewitt, State Trooper Charles Hewitt. I stated Charles Hewitt was wrong. They went to name calling. They went to labeling. Yet Charles Hewitt was sued during the pandemic of all times. In 2020, he was sued. When I did that video, he was sued. Did not know that. However, Charles Hewitt was fired. Why? For the very things I said in that video that was labeled as a sovereign citizen issue. As if what I was saying was wrong. And here's the great part. Because yesterday, I was feeling kind of nostalgic. So I was listening to the radio, technically iTunes, but the song Renegade came on with Jay-Z and Eminem. And Eminem's first verse kind of summed up everything that I talk about. Because I'm using this platform to share my views and my merits, but there is a huge interference. They're saying you shouldn't hear it. Through view suppression, lack of notifications, video flagging, name calling, and outright censoring. I'm going to say that one more time because when Eminem said it, he didn't say those words, but it was a reflection of exactly what's going on because I'm using this platform to share my views and my merits. There's a huge interference. They're saying you shouldn't hear it. Through views and suppression, through lack of notification, video flagging, name calling, and outright censoring. Maybe it's hatred I spew. Maybe it's food for the spirit. Maybe it's beautiful music I made for you to just cherish. And it goes back to what I had stated when my brother was on the stand. Elishua Israel. He quoted the Bible. Woe unto ye lawyers. You are the keepers of knowledge, and you despise anyone looking for it. when I'm using my platform to share my views are things that are written down, that you should hear it. I made it available for you to cherish. Many of you can actually use it as food for the spirit. And yes, there is hatred I'm spewing. I'm spewing hatred for an unjust justice system. Because what you're doing is telling me it's one way, but showing me it's another. You're telling me that a police officer is a deity. Nothing that they do is wrong. Nothing that they do is incorrect. But when I read it to you, I'm the problem. You suppress views to my videos. You don't notify my people that actually want to subscribe to me and see what it is I'm saying by not giving them the obligation that you're supposed to as they're using the bell notifications. Police unions are flagging my videos. They're outright censoring the things I'm saying and deleting certain videos. And now you're name calling, hoping that I don't give you food for the spirit. So yes, that is hatred that I'm spewing. I'm hating that I'm part of something that is taking away from people simply because they don't like what's being said or how it's being said or the great part about it, who's saying it. Because I'm going to say this now. No, I'm not a good person. No, I don't have a uncheckered past. Yes, I am a criminal. Yes, I have been charged with several felonies. I've even been a part of the FBI watch list. How does that change the ruling from Terry v. Ohio? How does that change standing from Allen v. Wright? What part of that changed between Mills v. D.C.? The messenger doesn't have to be unblemished. Moses was not unblemished. Moses was a murderer. But not only did he go up to Mount Sinai once, but he went up there twice. Why? Because there were still fools. There were still people that wanted to follow him, but. Because here's the thing. I'm not going to get too deep in that, but I want to give you something because there was a question that was asked of me. Because it was a statement that I made, because I was noticing certain things. Because I love listening to Jay-Z. One of the things he said that it just resonates with me is I dumbed down for my audience and doubled my dollars. You criticize me for it, yet you holler. Now here's the great part about that. Everybody said, please don't do that. Please don't leave YouTube. Please don't do that. But do you know what hasn't changed? The select group of people that are actually supporting Supreme Decision. But if I dumb down for my audience, I'll double my dollars. When it becomes about money, I'll show you something different. Why? Because that's exactly what our justice system has done. It became about money. It is looking at a form of survival through revenue generation. And then we're excusing the behavior of police officers, and then we're telling you that they are not culpable, so therefore you won't understand how strong you really are. Because you look at a young man who on February 8th, 2021, Antonio Smith was wrongfully arrested and had his arm broken. Here's the great part about it, if you can call it great. What happens is Antonio stopped because the police officer didn't do this thing that I called in he said, she said, the totality of circumstances. He stopped Antonio without speaking to the person who had made the complaint. So while he has Antonio stopped, another officer comes on the scene and immediately starts doing stuff. What I mean by doing stuff, he grabs Antonio, throws Antonio down, breaking his arm, telling him, shut up and cooperate, while Antonio was talking to another officer and cooperating. Supervisor shows up and he's sitting there, he's looking at the whole thing. He asked the officer, why did you throw him down? Remember the same thing I talked about in Philando Castile? The officer that shot Philando, his partner asked him, why did you shoot him? Because Philando wasn't moving. Philando wasn't going for his gun that he was lawfully carrying. But the supervisor said, well, he did this, he did that, and I saw him over here talking to him. He said, okay, cool. He said, did you look at the description? The supervisor asked the young man who had broken Antonio Smith's arm, did you look at the description of the person you were looking for? Because Antonio's not it. He's a witness. The officer then threatens Antonio. Problem is, the entire encounter is on video. February 8th, 2021, Antonio's already been paid. Why? Because he's holding the officers accountable, because this officer did not follow the totality of circumstances, their Supreme Court decision procedure. We looked at Derek Chauvin. Most of y'all actually didn't believe the fact that I said Derek Chauvin had 4 other cases in federal court prior to George Floyd. Well, now we have learned since the verdict, George Floyd actually Derek Chauvin, and it's Derek, not David, thank you for the correction, 1 year prior had did the exact same thing to a 14-year-old boy who was having a medical emergency. He had 17 other excessive force complaints. Oh yeah, I just wanted to leave that dramatic pause for those that had said, well, that's not true, that's not correct, when I said this shit a year ago. I literally said it a year ago. But again, when it comes out later, you know what? We're actually going to talk about another group of officers. Because again, you constantly hear, this doesn't happen, police don't do this, they're not a gang. Well, 11 officers are under federal indictment because after they killed someone, many had done multiple killings of suspects, they would actually put bins, like bend their actual badge, put a little notch in it. Please don't do that. No, they're the good guys. This is the programming they want you to believe. But again, here's the thing. Everything I'm giving you has either happened in the last couple of weeks or since 2020. I'm going to say that again. It's either happened in the last couple of weeks or 2020. So I'm not going back years and eons. Oh, well, that's old. No. This is today. This is current. This is the right now. This is the here and now. It's the present. This is our gift. Because I did a story about the young man that had got assaulted in the snow. Many people didn't even know his age until I said it on my podcast. I just thought that was hilarious. Because again, they're supposed to be the good guys. They're supposed to be doing the right thing. We're supposed to trust them. But these are the things that are going on. 11 cops in one precinct bending their badge after they killed somebody. You look at the officer in, I believe it's Fairfax County, Virginia. 400 plus cases are being overturned because of the stupid stuff he was doing. 400 cases in Fairfax County. So here's the shout out to Fairfax County. If you're in Fairfax County and you've been arrested, you might want to challenge it because now is eating time. They are harvesting right now. 400 plus cases, are being overturned because this good officer didn't perform his duties correctly. Had another officer, false police reports and assault in Paterson, New Jersey. He's just writing up police reports. Why? Because whenever I say, yeah, they have quotas. I've said this. I know I've said this in several podcasts. I know people have also told me, that is not true. You're just saying stuff. That's your opinion. Okay, cool. Then explain to me, why are they just randomly writing up police reports that are false? Because prosecutors are supposed to tell the defense, if they're vigorously defending, about someone that has written a false police report. I wonder why not. Oh, because the prosecutor is not requiring actual evidence. See how it's now trickling down? You're not fighting back. Prosecutors not requiring evidence. The police are saying whatever the hell they want to say, and defense is not defending you, and the judge is just rolling whatever is put in front of them. So whose fault is that? That's all. Whose fault is that? Victor Hill in my neck of the woods. ATL, Georgia, shouty. Victor Hill. Victor Hill is being charged federally with improperly restraining inmates by leaving them, not just placing them in restraint chairs, but leaving them for multiple hours in restraint chairs, and have been doing this over the years, but he's only been charged with 4 counts. But he's a good guy. Why? Because he's chief. He's the head dude. Here's the great part about that. You know what? I'm not even going to do that. But he's chief. Do you think anybody else is doing the exact same thing he's doing, or they're watching him do? Because I talk about how kids learn, how children learn. They learn by mimicking. So when you see a rambunctious ass child, guess what? Somebody in the house that is near them that they're seeing all the time is rambunctious. You see a mouthy child. It's because somebody in that house that child is seeing or around is mouthy. Because they're mimicking how to be human beings. And one of my greatest things that I love is, again, I love talking about Avengers, and this is the age of Ultron. Ultron said, man creates the things that destroy him. Men of peace create war. Humans create other humans. Because what we're doing is pretty much replicating ourselves to a certain extent. And one thing I love is I have a bunch of kids. And the funny thing about it is each one of my children have a different part of my personality, which actually makes it easier whenever they do something, I know who did it because I know which one has what set of my personality. And it's funny because my father used to tell me, you act just like your mother. You act just like your granddaddy. And my grandmother would tell me I have bits and pieces of uncles and aunts. And it's funny to me. Why? Because those were the people that not necessarily were around me, but they showed me different things. I was a sponge. I was picking it up. So if the head guy, because that's why people have supervisors, because you learn from your supervisor. So if the head guy is doing something such as Victor Hill, there's somebody below him that's doing the exact same thing. Why? Because the boss is doing it. Then we look at the Hartford officer who punched a handcuffed female twice in the face. The Hartford officer that punched a handcuffed female twice in the face. And the greatest thing about this is I could not stop laughing whenever I heard this. And I'm going to give you the reason why. The police union excused this behavior. Now, the officer's last name was Guzie, and I'm going to say Guzzie. I don't know how to say it, but I'm going to say Guzzie, Guzie. Guzzie's statement was he had to use a hand restraint on the woman to ensure the safety of other officers. Now, the video shows the young lady talking shit to him. I get it. You're arrested. It's not a good day. The officer's antagonizing her. She's reciprocating. She's throwing it back at him. But then she spits at him. So I understand now it's emotional. I understand. The problem is he had an emotional response because there were 5 officers there. He pushed 2 of them out the way to hit this woman in the face twice, which he called a hand restraint. I've been charged for using a hand restraint on several people. But this young man, his behavior was excused because he's a police officer until the video came out. Because the police union is still standing behind him. But the police force is like, you pushed 2 officers that you were trying to save that was restraining her and punched her twice in the face. But we're supposed to be okay because, like I said, he's a good guy. At least that's what the police apologists. He has a tough job. It's okay. What he did by punching that woman in the face twice was a good thing. And for those of you that don't understand it, that was sarcasm because I think it was the stupidest thing. However, I'm not surprised because I expect stupid people to do stupid shit. When I listen to people apologize for the action, just like I heard this stupid-ass bastard say, well, if you stop committing crimes, the police won't shoot you. And then when I ran off a litany of people, he had no answers. When I talk about Michael Ramos, when I talk about Tamir Rice, when I start talking about these people that have literally done nothing wrong, that were shot by police, they have no answers. But I'm supposed to excuse this behavior and believe that at all times this bastard is right. I'm going to say, this person is right. That's not smart. That cannot follow simple instruction. That is not trained properly. I'm supposed to believe that they're right, even though they're not trained to be right. Which is why when I say they're not trained to solve crimes. Not sure why that's even an argument because they don't. There's literally whole departments for unsolved cases. There's literally shows called The First 48. Why? Because after 48 hours, you got to hope somebody's snitching. Because they're not going to the scene and, as John Melvin said, doing some CSI work. No, that's not what they're doing. That's not what they're trained to do. They're not trained to ask questions. Because even in one of the cases I gave you, Terryville, Ohio states you can't use a hunch or a guess. There's literally another case, I can't remember what it is right offhand, where they used the word hypothesis. I'm sorry, I wasn't great in school, but I understand a hypothesis. I learned that in science. Because a hypothesis is a guess. And I do know from pretty much paying attention that they make a guess and then they try to fit the evidence to their guess. So even if they have to restructure what their guess is, they have to restructure what the evidence says. Then we go into Matt Rodriguez. He was charged with PC-129 assault under color of law. Now, this is one that I saw that was kind of hilarious to me, because I just want you to keep in mind, police are good people. Matt Rodriguez is a good guy. We're supposed to trust Matt Rodriguez. Matt Rodriguez ordered this young lady out of her car. Well, it was actually the sister car that she had just purchased. The sister had just purchased a new car. Rodriguez ordered the woman that was driving out of the car because, again, the sister had the young lady driving. Now, in the midst of getting out the car, which he had her at gunpoint with another officer, why? Because the sister was there and a child was in the back seat. He ordered this young woman, as he walked up to her, to crawl to him. I'm going to give you a pause right there real quick, because I'm pretty sure y'all remember a young man who was in a hotel room with his wife. They weren't looking for him, but he was asked to do things that was not physically possible unless he was a contortionist, and then shot and killed, and again, wasn't the person they were looking for. Rodriguez, but again, I'm going to get into that, because again, you have an officer offering commands, as he put it, to a young woman that is degrading as hell, because when he told her to crawl to him, she made a facial expression, and yes, he kicked her in the stomach hard enough to leave a bruise. Yes, he wanted her to crawl to him, even though he was close enough to kick her in the stomach. I'm going to say that one more time. He wanted this woman to crawl to him, even though he was close enough to her to kick her in the stomach. When she fell over, he then handcuffed her behind the back. Now, keep in mind, at no point was this car reported stolen. But this good cop decided he was going to stop this particular car, because he thought it was a car that was evading police, even though it had the new car tag on it. He thought it was the one evading police earlier. He turns around and tells the woman, "Oh, it's you." While she's laying on the concrete with her hands cuffed behind her back, he then grabs the handcuffs and picks her up and drags her across the concrete to his truck, and then puts her in the back seat. Keep in mind, he's a good guy. What he's doing is right, according to because all she had to do was not commit any crimes. Oh, wait. She didn't commit any crimes. He's kicked her. She wasn't resisting. And then he's drugged her across the concrete after extending her arms as a contortionist and putting her in the back seat, only to find out, yeah, the car's not stolen, which it wasn't even reported stolen. And he hadn't even spoken to the other people that were involved in this said being evaded. The other cops. He didn't do the totality of circumstances. He's now being sued and laid off. But he's a good guy. She should avoid committing crimes, and we should trust them. Adam Coy. Adam Coy is charged with murdering a suspect. There was another police officer a couple of days after that who was arrested for shooting unprovoked into a car he had stopped at a traffic stop. Daryl Warner, second-degree assault on a 17-year-old that he choked while the 17-year-old was in handcuffs. I think you also remember the video where I talked about the 14-year-old. Well, actually, I didn't do a video. I talked about it in the podcast. The 14-year-old that was stopped for possession of an illegal dirt bike, and come to find out, the possession wasn't illegal, and the police just stopped him and had the wrong bike. And here's another one, because this one deals with Kevin Durant's hometown, PG County. Now, I'm going to tell you why this became interesting to me. Because I'm getting ready to give you a pattern. I'm getting ready to illustrate a pattern of poor training. Being able to blur the lines. But this is what happens when people believe that police can do whatever the hell they want to do and don't have procedures to follow. I was looking up PG County because I was sent something about a young woman being raped at a traffic stop in PG County. So I literally typed that into Google, and I almost fell out because one of the articles, because I was actually looking for Ryan Macklin. Ryan Macklin was a police officer who forcefully raped a young woman during a traffic stop. He actually forgot to turn off his body cam while he told this woman what she had to do to get out of a ticket. But again, what I found, that not all cops are bad. While I honestly believe that, I also honestly believe that none of them are trained properly. Because in Paul George County, Ryan Macklin was charged with raping a woman at a traffic stop. Their corporal, Tristan Thigpen, Thigpen, was charged with raping a minor. He had also been suspended because he was out driving under the influence. Didn't say under influence. What they just said DUI, under influence. It is what it is. Brian Newcomb, false imprisonment, second-degree rape from a traffic stop. Martique, Martique, Vanderpool, first-degree assault, first and second-degree rape at a traffic stop. Are you catching the pattern here? Richard Talent assaulted a woman at a social event after a traffic stop. Paul George County, corporal on down. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's literally at least 5 officers this year that have been charged with raping someone at a traffic stop. But we're supposed to trust them and not commit any crimes. And they won't do this. This is what we're being told. But then when we fight back, we're supposed to believe that they're right. It's supposed to be okay. At what point is it not okay to rape a minor? At what point is it not okay to imprison someone and forcefully rape them in their backseat? At what point is it not okay for an officer to write multiple, because it was 2 officers that did this as well. They wrote multiple tickets for people that they had never stopped. You had another officer. When is it not okay for them to not lie on a police report? When is it? Because, see, these are the questions that I'm asking to the Blue Line. I'm asking this to the police apologists. When is it not okay? How many does it have to take before it's okay to say, you know what, this is a problem? How many times do we have to go through these crazy, stupid, unnecessary stops before it's too many? How much of it do we have to accept? Because you know what? The one thing I learned is the definition of insanity. It's doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. If we continue to keep accepting what these police officers are doing, we're telling them they're all right. Because, again, you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. If you're telling them their behavior is okay, when are they wrong? When is it okay for them to be human? And when are we going to start asking for them to be trained properly? Because, again, if my expectations are managed, I can't trust them because I don't trust someone that is not willing to be a leader. I don't trust anybody that's not striving to be greater. Damn being great. I just want you to be better than you were yesterday. Damn that. Because there's an expectation that you have of me. Because I even looked at the Atlanta, they created this nonprofit crap, and it's the funniest shit ever. And I mean it the way I just said it. It is the funniest shit ever because it's a problem to ask the police to correct their behavior. But they actually put together a nonprofit team, as they called it, to go out and train citizens on how to deal with cops. But they won't train a police officer how to deal with citizens. Isn't that some shit? You'll ask the citizens to be better, but you won't ask a cop to correct their behavior. When is it not okay?